Just a quick legal disclaimer, I did receive this as a review sample with the only expectation that I make a video on it. So the packaging is pretty straightforward. No frills, just everything you need and nothing else. The fan assembly is protected with some nice LDPE foam. And it comes with a box of accessories. And you get a handful of things with it. You get an Allen key so you can disassemble it to replace the fans or reverse them. You get cage nuts for square hole rack posts. And you get the screws for the cage nuts. It is worth noting these are the larger thread style, so if you have a rack with threaded posts, these probably won't be compatible. And you also get power supply with two different plugs. I believe this is like a European style plug, and this is your more traditional US plug. Now this power supply is 12 volt, 2 amp, and it is center positive, which is good. And to attach the plug, you'll notice that there's 3 locator pins, and you have to line those up with the notches that are cut out of the housing. So with the American plug, you basically have it in a close to vertical position, and you'll push it down while twisting it clockwise. If you need to take it off, there's this release right here, which is basically a spring-loaded locking tab. You'll push down on that, twist it counterclockwise, you can lift it out. And if you need to install the European one, it's pretty much the same process. Just put it in at that not quite straight angle, and then you turn it clockwise until it clicks into place, and you should be good to go. So with this fan, the power button is not a physical power button that controls power going in. It's a soft power button like your power button on your PC. And with this, it's designed so the default state is to power on after power loss. So I'm going to plug it in now. And as you can see, it just automatically powers on. It's currently set to max fan speed, which is a little noisy. But otherwise, yeah, just to turn it off, you just push the power button, and it's not like a mechanical switch that interrupts the power. So this has some fan indicator lights on the front, which are currently off because this is off. And those lights correspond with the fans and their positions. And if the fans aren't spinning, then the fan indicator light will not be lit up. They will take a little bit to light up because there's like a threshold, and the fans don't start spinning right away if you have them on the lowest speed. As you can see, they slowly light up as the fans spin up. And these are really handy because it gives you a visual way to see if the fans are working without having to actually look through, which can be hard to tell depending on how you have them configured. One neat thing about this is it does come with dust filters that are removable, which aren't advertised on the website, which is a little surprising. But it's just a simple plastic mesh that slots in. Now, the only bummer is you're not going to be able to remove this without taking it out of your rack, because it's a little tab that basically is going to be smushed in between the fan's rack ears and the posts on your rack. But it is a nice touch, and hopefully they don't get that dusty, and really you probably could get away with just hitting the front with a vacuum and sucking up the dust. But also, if you don't want them, you can remove them and just run without. So noise-wise, this is fairly quiet depending on what setting you have it on. And I'm going to be silent for a second so you can see what the ambient room noise level is like. And then I'll start it out at the lowest setting. I'll do 50% and max, and you can kind of get a general idea of how noisy this is. So obviously at full tilt it's pretty noisy, but if you need to move the air, it'll move it for you, because this is rated for 42 CFM per fan, and then a static pressure of 4.31 millimeter H2O, which pretty good number. Don't know, depending on what you're doing, if you necessarily would need to run it at full speed. It does depend on how well your rack is enclosed. So if you have open slots and you don't have the slots that are open blanked off, then the airflow might not go ideal directions. But like if you had a server mounted above and below this, and you had some stuff down the middle on the back that needed to have some extra airflow cooling over it, you'd have a nice air channel, so you could easily run this at a lower and quieter speed. Here the fan is installed in the rack, and as you can tell, it looks really slick. Don't mind the current noise level, that's actually coming from my Slagger build that I did. But yeah, I really like having the front power button easy to access, along with the fan speed control. If I'm doing something really intense, maybe I need to crank up the fans, it's easy to get to. As you can tell at full speed it is noisier now, but you can kind of dial in however you see fit, or even turn it off. But I like it, and it looks great with my setup. So overall, at $120 price, I say this is a fairly nice fan and a great deal. I was going to DIY my own solution before I came across this, and it was not going to be anywhere near as nice as this, because it basically would have been metal blank plate with some fans screwed to it, and I would have had to jerry rig a power supply for it. Versus this, I mean, it's a whole complete unit, and the fans are self-contained. You got variable speed along with easy access to power control. And really the money I would have saved wouldn't have been that significant. You could probably DIY this without the fan speed control and the power button, and you could put something together that would be close for, I think I was looking at 30 for the panel, 40 for the fans, and then power supply would have just probably grabbed something from my junk bin. I would have needed fan grills, which I also would have from my junk bin, but if you're to buy the power supply and the fan grills, I mean, you're getting pretty darn close to what this costs new versus the DIY. So it's definitely a compelling value just to buy it rather than make it. The only things that I would like to see changed or be different would be, it would be nice if the filter mesh was replaceable without having to take this off the rack. And I wish the screws that they included, which are in the box right now, were the smaller thread size, just because if you don't have a square hole rack and you have a threaded rack with the smaller thread size, you're not going to use those, because here's an example of a screw for that you normally see for threaded hole racks. It's a completely different size. Also not as big of a deal, but it would be nice if these had a plastic washer, because I always feel really bad about when I screw something down to the rack like that, and if I don't have a plastic washer, it always leaves a mark, and that makes me feel bad about messing up my nice looking face of my device. But yeah, otherwise, like I said, for $120, it's really not that bad of a deal, and you get a lot more features than I'm used to seeing in many of the other rack-mounted fan assemblies that I've come across. So hopefully that's interesting, and thanks for watching.